Today we're going to cover equations of quadratic type. They're going to look very similar to quadratic equations. The difference is they no longer have a degree of 2. So they're still going to be in the form of a, and instead of x we're going to put w squared plus bw plus c equals 0. So how are we going to identify that it's an equation of quadratic type? The first thing, it's going to have 3 terms. After it has 3 terms, then you're going to take this middle term. So in this case, you're going to take w and square it. If you square it and it equals your first term, then you know that it's quadratic type. Alright, so let's take a look at our first example. So the first thing we notice, it has 1, 2, 3 terms. So after we identify that it has 3 terms, we're going to take the middle term, which in this case is x squared. So I'm going to take x squared and I'm going to square it. So if I square x squared, I'm going to get x to the 4th. Then you're going to make sure, does this match up with your first term? It does. So that means it's a quadratic type. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to make what we call a u substitution. So in this case, I'm going to let u equal, you're always going to let it equal the middle term. So in this case, u is going to equal x squared. Now all we're going to do is rewrite the problem. So that means it's going to be 2u squared minus u minus 3 equals 0. Now it's your choice. You can factor, you can use the quadratic formula, or you can complete the square. In this case, I'm just going to factor it. So 2 numbers, I have to use bridge, so 2 numbers that multiply to -6 and add to -1. That's going to be, let's see, -3 and +2. And then I carry down my first and last 2 terms. Then I factor by grouping. So I factor out a u, I'm going to get 2u minus 3. Factor out a +1, I get 2u minus 3. So when I go to rewrite it, I'm going to get u plus 1 times u minus 2u minus 3 equals 0. So now we have to go back and look. Okay, what was your u? Well, my u was x squared, so I have to rewrite the problem. So if I rewrite it, it's going to be x squared plus 1 equals 0, and then 2x squared minus 3 equals 0. Now you're just going to solve those individually. So I'm going to come over here to finish solving those. So if I take x squared plus 1 equals 0, so I'm going to get x squared equals -1, take the square root. In this case, we have not talked about complex numbers yet, so let's just say this one right here would be no solution because we can't take the square root of a negative number. Now if we solve the second one, you're going to add 3 to both sides and then divide by 2. So I'm going to get x squared equals 3/2. Then you take the square root of both sides. In this case, we're going to have to rationalize the denominator, so we're going to get the square root of 6 over 2 for our final answer. So x equals the square root of 6 over 2. Alright, now let's look at an example that's a little bit more complex than the first one. So again, notice how you have 3 terms. So this is my first term, second term, third term. So it has 3 terms. Now we're going to test it to see if it's a quadratic type. So if I take x minus 5, I'm going to do it up here, so x minus 5, that's my middle term, and I square it. Am I going to get x minus 5 squared? Yes, that right here, that is matching up to that first term, so it is a quadratic type. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use u substitution. So in this case, again, you're always letting u equal your middle term. So my middle term is x minus 5. So I'm going to let u equal x minus 5. Now I'm going to rewrite the problem, so it's going to be u squared plus 2u minus 35 equals 0. Again, it's your choice on how you want to solve it. Again, I'm going to use factoring. So in this case, two numbers that multiply to negative 35 and add to positive 2 are going to be, let's see, positive 7 and negative 5. Oh, sorry, that should be a u. So u minus 5 equals 0. So now we're going to take, if we set both of them equal to 0, we're going to get u equals negative 7 and u equals 5. Well, that's not our final answer. Remember, you have to look back up, what did u really equal? Well, u equaled x minus 5. So I'm going to take that and substitute that back in for both of them. So I add 5 to both sides, so I'll get x equals negative 2 and x equals 0. So that those two are your final answers.